You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. I hope you all are well. So we are rounding out 2025 and looking ahead to the new year. And that begs the question, if you have a big goal you would like to do someday, maybe it's an Ironman or a bike tour or hiking a massive mountain in some faraway place, but it never seems to be the right time. That's because there never really is the right time. You just need to put your stake in the ground and start. And that's what this week's guest, ultracyclist Paula Ralph, is all about and explains during this week's show. Paula set out to achieve a world record by completing a solo ride from Cape Town, South Africa to Norway, a journey spanning 20,000 kilometers, crossing 19 countries and 3 continents in just 73 days. That was her goal. Her original intent was to do that fully supported, so it would just be her and her bike churning out the miles, or kilometers, I should say. But she ran into sponsorship and financial challenges at the last minute a couple of times, and she had already put in the time to train and prepare, so she just made the bold move to go it solo, like totally unsupported solo. She bought some big bags to go on the front and back of her bike, and because she only had a small road bike, she decided just to toss a backpack on for the rest, which meant she was carrying about 8K or 16 pounds on her back. And, well, it went about as smoothly as you might imagine. She nearly got heat stroke on the first day. She would face numerous mechanical mishaps, resupply challenges, had a traumatic collision with a truck in Zambia, and mandatory reroutes for war that ultimately made the record impossible. But she never quit. Instead, Paula pivoted and completed a revised version of the journey, ultimately covering 12,290 kilometers across 17 countries in 126 days. And she returned with something far, far more valuable than a record. She returned with a deep belief in herself and an understanding of the power that we midlife women hold within and what you can achieve when you set your sights high, even if you fall short. She also had the time and the space to take a deep trip through her headspace and devote energy and space to working through her mental health. We talk about both of those journeys, the physical and the psychological here, and I think there's just a lot we can take from all of it. I just really loved her spirit, and the whole thing was just a great reminder that it's actually okay to try something big and miss the mark. People respect the hell out of you for even trying, and in the end, what matters is that you're living this life on your own terms, the best you can, pushing forward, learning, growing, sharing your journey, and just enjoying this ride the best we can. So I hope you enjoy this story as much as I did. And I wish each and every one of you a rejuvenating holiday season filled with happy, peaceful, contented moments, fun times with friends and family, and hopefully some much needed downtime to dream up your own big dreams. I appreciate every single one of you. All right. As always, if you like the show, kindly share it with a friend. I want to keep this train rolling strong into 2026, and following the show on your podcast platform, giving it a nice rating or review, and sharing your favorite episodes with friends and coworkers is exactly how that happens. Also, watch our social media channels on Feisty Menopause on Instagram and Facebook for all the cool stuff that we have lined up for you in the new year, including another cycling trip in Spain, a Feisty strength training club, a new coaching certificate, mechanic camps, and a great big Feisty fest happening right here in the Lehigh Valley where I live, coming next fall. And with that, let's have a few words about our awesome sponsors and get on with the show. All right, Paula, welcome to the show. So, we have talked a couple of times in preparation here, and after our last conversation, it was just really clear to me that this long ride was so much more than a physical journey, that was really a psychological journey, an emotional journey, a healing journey. So you weren't often when I have these conversations, it's with somebody who has done a bunch of these things. They were an ultra cyclist, and that wasn't you. You weren't even really a cyclist when you started this, but you were compelled to take on this massive journey, in part to raise awareness for mental health and the healing power of movement. So I really wanted to take a moment and honor that and talk a bit about what brought you to this moment where you say, I'm going to set this audacious goal and ride my bike from Cape Town to Nordkap. And like that's a big ask of yourself. So what brought you there? Like what take us through that.
Um, okay. That again, you're asking big questions here. What brought me to that point? Um, I guess for me, it was a now or never moment where I was like, you're getting older. You've always wanted to do something crazy to prove to yourself that you are capable of doing all these things. I've always had big dreams, big goals. But as we've spoken, you've heard about the trauma in my past, my sister committing suicide, and then I went into an abusive relationship. So I've never really had the opportunity um, to do this for myself. And I just felt
Can
like
you
this was
share
the,
some of that? I don't mean to step on you, but like um for our audience listening now, I mean, I've heard that your story, but can you share a bit of what your childhood was like, what you went through in your early years?
yeah, yeah, sure. So, I mean, home life was a little bit, it wasn't that bad in sense of, there wasn't any actual abuse, but my parents fought a lot. There was a little bit of tension in the house always, and then my sister, I was always a bit of a space cadet, and I think I've realized now that I haven't been diagnosed, but a lot of people have said, oh, by the way, we knew you had ADHD.
Mm.
Um, so, it kind of explains why I was always in my own little bubble growing up and not really paying attention to the outside,
Yeah.
So the more volatile the home life became, the more I kind of withdrew within myself, and I just knew that the house wasn't calm. The house wasn't, it was quite volatile. And then my sister moved out of the house and she moved to Johannesburg. And then at the age of 18, she committed suicide. And
Whew.
I was,
Where were you at the
yeah.
time?
I was at home with my parents.
In the
So
UK?
no, in South Africa.
Oh,
So
you
I
grew
grew
up in
up
South
in
Africa.
South Africa. Um, we lived about 1.5, 2 hours outside Johannesburg.
Okay.
So I was at home. I was 14 years old,
Oh,
and my
I'm sorry,
mom.
Paula.
It's yeah, my the worst part about it was my mom was in the UK burying her mother because her
Oh,
mom had passed away. And then she had to come back to South Africa to bury her daughter. So you can imagine, like, life wasn't the same after that,
yeah. How could it be?
And exactly. And so I went from one kind of turbulent household into an abusive relationship
Mm.
with this guy who was a complete narcissist, and he broke me down to the point where, like, even now to this day, I battle with feeling worthy,
Mm.
and I battle with feeling seen, and
How long
loved.
were
And
you with him?
I was with him for 6 years.
Hmm.
And then my now ex-husband rescued me.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and whilst that wasn't an abusive relationship, I always, when now looking back at the marriage, it was like, oh, he always believed like I owed him something,
Hmm.
because he rescued me, right? And so yeah, there was always that there was never communication, there was never openness, but of course I was still broken, I was still hurt, and I never learned to communicate as a child because
Yeah.
our form of communication in my household was yelling and screaming and
Right.
you know it was never a case of, oh, my mom always said you can come and talk to me,
Yeah.
but when the talking to your mom was retaliated with yelling and screaming, then you don't want to go and talk to them anymore, right? So
Yeah.
so that was always difficult. And so yeah, I then left my marriage, went to Dubai, and I did a lot of healing in Dubai, but I didn't do enough. I hadn't proved myself enough to myself. And so yeah, I got this crazy idea that I was going to go and cycle the world. So I did.
So, so where did you, I have never, I'm not an ultra cyclist myself like that. I'm familiar with certain routes. Where did you learn of this particular route that goes from, Cape Town all the way up to the
To
Arctic Circle,
Norway.
essentially? Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, like it's crazy because there was a Facebook post and it's nuts, right? So who
Sure,
who
why not?
decides to do things from Facebook posts? But there was a Facebook post and it was going from South Africa to Russia originally.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and there was the Russian conflict happened, so then I diverted to Norway. But in me announcing to the world that I was going to do this thing, a friend of mine in Dubai, she comes up to me, she goes, "Oh, have you seen this guy?" So his name is Jonas Deichmann,
Hmm.
and he's done it from the top down. So he
Oh,
did
okay.
it from the point where I finished to the point where I started. Yeah, so he did it in reverse. So I had a look at his route and I kind of almost essentially mimicked his route, but
Oh, interesting.
he went through Russia. So he cut through Russia. And of course with the Russian conflict, I was like, no, yeah, maybe don't want to go that route. So then I took Europe instead and
Right.
carved my own route.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's impressive in and of itself, honestly. So after you decide to ride it, you get a road bike because the original plan was to do this supported, correct? You were
Yes,
gonna have,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You coach, you strength train, you do the work, and you put in the miles, and your sponsorship falls through
Twice.
twice. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. The first year was end of 2023, and the second time was the end of 2024. And then I
ooh,
was like, do I go a third time? Like postpone for a third time? It could potentially happen again. So I didn't want to take that chance because I'd given everything, financially, everything. I'd given my everything to this project. And I was like, I don't have a choice.
yeah,
It's like in a conversation with my coach on the day of finding out that my sponsors were pulling out again. I had a mini breakdown with the coach going, I can't believe this is happening again after everything. Um, Maybe I was supposed to go and do it solo, unsupported. So yeah, from that conversation, it was like, right, I'm starting in February, come hell or high water, essentially. I'd already had the ticket booked from the first cancellation.
oh boy.
So I just kept putting, because it was flexible, I just kept it on the flexi. And I was like, I've got the flight booked. I can take my bike and then it's just me and I need to worry about myself.
You hadn't really been practicing with the things that you need to be self-supported, though, right? Like
No.
bags.
No. Uh, and of course, my bike was a road bike, so it couldn't take all the stuff that I really needed because, essentially you want the weight on your bike. You don't want to be carrying the weight on your body. So I had a 10-liter saddlebag at the back, and then there was just no space on the bike really to take all the extra little bits and pieces. So I ended up with a backpack weighing 8 kilograms all the way through from the start to the finish.
That's more than 16 pounds for those of us in the metric the US system. Um, which is a lot, honestly, to
Yeah,
be wearing on your back this whole time.
really is. It was so much. But like, I think so. As you know, I've got a sporting background. So I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm brown belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did Olympic freestyle wrestling. I've been
Wow.
hoisting boys of 80 kilos on my shoulders for a while. So I was like, I think I had the core strength, and I think that's really what saved me was having good core strength and back strength because I didn't really notice it too much. It was just a lot slower than I'd anticipated, I guess, because I wasn't used to training with all that weight.
And no matter what, I mean, you're carrying more weight. You're
Yeah,
going to go slower. I mean,
yeah,
it's just, even if having done some of that, even when you train with it, you're moving slower.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
by necessity. So you set out on the 16th of February. What was that first day like? Well, like what were the feels going through like when you're just like after all this planning and these setbacks and this and that, and you've got your bags and you got your bike, and you're like, well, it's just me now. Like, what was that like?
It was the most surreal moment ever because it was like, oh, I really have to do this, you know? It's like so you're thinking, what have you got yourself into? Like you're here, you're at the start, your best mate's with you at the start line, she's cheering for you. It's like, oh, I don't have a choice now, I've really got to go. But
Wow.
but it was a case of it was weird. I didn't know if I was nervous, excited, or like, there was never a thought of I'm gonna back out.
Okay.
There was never
Hmm.
that thought, but it was a case of it was like, oh, it's actually here. Oh, I have to go now. Yeah, and then it's just a case of okay, here we go. Let's see what happens, um, and hope I
Yeah.
get to the finish.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like, especially when you first start something like that, you have to do some mental gymnastics not to feel the overwhelmingness of the
Yeah.
task ahead of you, right?
Absolutely.
But
Oh, absolutely. And, I mean, anybody who knows me, they know so I do dragon boat racing as well. I told you that.
yeah.
And like, so I used to be the pacer.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you know how dragon boat works,
I
but
had
but
I had a show
basically,
on it, but I don't remember exactly.
right.
It's a strange
So
sport. It looks really cool.
it is
Yeah.
super cool. So you have right and left.
Yep.
And in the boat, you kind of tend to, the pacers at the front, they set the pace, but it's the left person that kind of controls everything more or less.
Okay.
So I'm a right-hand paddler, which is a good thing. And my bench partner, my benchie, she's left. And so she's the one that controls. And she had to boss me around so much because I get hyped up on caffeine and then I'd go half a leather, and then halfway through the race, I'd be like, I've run out of energy.
Right.
So she's always screaming at me, pace yourself, pace yourself, pace yourself. So of course I don't have her on day one on my ride. So I'm there and I'm like, okay, let's go. And,
It's like there's a whole shot.
and I said, so for the first day, bearing in mind, of course, it was supposed to be supported. So all the
Right.
days that I'd set down and mapped out, they were for the supported ride. And then on day one, I gave myself minor heat stroke and I pulled into camp puking during dead of night,
Right out of the
270,
gate.
yeah, right out of the gate, 270 something kilometers later. And I was like, I'm gonna have to pivot. I can't do this every day. I know there's a world record I'm attempting a world record here, but I also have to be realistic in what I can do with all this extra weight and everything. So I kind of then winged it through Africa.
which
because
is
it went from 250, 300K a day depending on the terrain to like 150 kilometers, so all my
which is still,
stops changed.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
plenty.
yeah, it's plenty, but of course I then and of course the other thing is with Africa you can't do 150K and then there might be a town there.
Mm.
So every day I'm looking at the map going, okay, I can make it to this town. Okay, I can make it to that town. So I was basically town hopping through Africa
And
and winging it.
that makes, I mean, it makes total sense because you do not have a car, you need to
Yeah,
resupply yourself.
yeah, yeah.
And it's
And you
hot,
can't.
right?
Yeah, so I thought I was going to go into winter, and actually I ended up going late summer. And it was hot. It was pretty hot. It wasn't that hot that I couldn't cycle through the day, but
Hmm.
it was hot enough that I was like, okay, you have to carry extra water. You have to make sure that there's more uh, electrolytes. So you got your salt that you're carrying. You're putting the electrolytes in. You have to be aware of that because, of course, you don't realize that you're sweating, and I
Yeah.
had an 8 kilogram backpack on with an extra 2 liter sweat trapped behind me in the bag. I take the bag off and the bag was soaking wet. I'm like, I didn't feel that until I took it off. So you know that you're just losing fluid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take me through Africa because when we talked before, I understood that in your mind you thought Africa would be the hardest part, right? And that
Yeah,
which makes perfect sense to me.
yeah,
Um, Talk to me about the journey up Africa and like what that was like. I have done the Cape Epic in South Africa. That's it. But we were warned like when we were doing warm up rides and stuff, like be careful, it's not safe. You're a woman. I mean, all these messages that we got. Were
yeah.
you ever scared as a woman riding by yourself up Africa through the whole continent?
Um, I'm probably going to shock a lot of people and say no.
I,
Um,
that's okay.
Yeah. I never actually let it. I think if you let fear come into your head, that's it. People react one way or another, right? And it could stop you in your tracks right there and then and go, right, I can't carry on. I can't carry on. I'm done for. I'm too scared. I'm this, that, and the other. Um, so the only time I really got really scared was like when I hit Ethiopia,
Mm,
because I was getting all these messages about conflict,
all right.
and you know, I hate to say it, but I was also getting messages. Look, you're female and you're white and you're British, and they don't like you, and so you have to kind of like be aware of that happening, right? So the rest of Africa, no, I didn't really feel that scared at all. I mean, so I did South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya. In terms of being scared of people, there was one little moment in Botswana, where I thought I saw the same car three
Mm,
times.
mm.
You
I just
up,
got a
down,
little
up.
bit of yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, and so it was a stretch. I was trying to do another 200K stretch, and there was only one place where you could stop, but it was like 80 Ks from my previous camp. I was like, that's too soon, 80 Ks is nothing for a day. And then I don't know if it was a little bit of self-sabotage in the head where you're like daunted by 200 Ks, or if I was being a little bit more aware of my surroundings, and I thought I saw the same car a couple of times, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pulling into this place,
No, that you listen
so
to that voice. I
exactly,
think that
you
was
listen to
wise.
that voice,
Hmm.
absolutely, and I pulled in, and then I started the next day. Zambia was brilliant. Zambia was so much fun. The people there, they're all cycling, they're all
Hmm.
smiling, they're all greeting you. You know, they're like, hey, and and then the little kids, the local kids, they come cycling past you like, oh, look at me, I'm better than you, and you're like, yeah, I started in South Africa. You started 10 minutes ago. I started, 30 days ago, whatever the case was. So that was quite sweet. Um, Zambia and Tanzania, halfway through, I think from Lusaka to the Zambia-Tanzanian border, that got a little bit sketchy because I was on the truck road.
Oh,
I was on the main
I've heard the
convoy
traffic
road.
is
Yeah,
intense.
and I've got videos of, so I got hit by the truck. Um,
Don't just toss that out there. So, like,
so, okay. Picture this. The road is as wide as it is the truck. So you've got
oh,
two-way traffic, and the road is only wide enough for one truck.
right.
And so you've got trucks swaying in and out, missing potholes, missing each other. They're up there, you're down there, they can't see you, everything. And most of them are copper trucks. They're hauling copper. So they're going slow, which is a good thing.
No, no kidding.
But they're also really heavy. So there was a truck in front of me, there was a convoy behind me, and you're cycling on a lip of tar about that wide because there's no hard shoulder and there's grooves in the tar, and
Yeah.
you're cycling on the top of the crest of the groove. And anyway, the truck in front of me pulled into the lay-by I wanted to stop on. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I was looking at him, not thinking about this guy next to me. And he starts coming past me. And he, for some reason that I couldn't see, decided he wanted to go in the lay-by as well. But his truck hadn't actually passed me yet. His cab had passed me, but he had I don't know how far behind me. And he starts coming over the road. And I'm like, get off there. And he hit me. And I think he caught my backpack because the bike didn't get dragged under the wheel. I skidded
Thank God.
out. Yeah, exactly. So I skidded out, and I kind of skidded away from the bike, from the tire, rather, the truck tire. And so I kind of like, then as I hit the gravel, I protected my head. I got bruising all down the right hand side of my body. Um, and I just led there, like thinking to myself, okay, mental check. Is anything broken? You're alive, which is good. Can you move? Can you function? Everything. And once I'd assessed that, I was like, is my bike okay?
Yeah, well, that's important too. I'm glad that you did it in that order, however. Like,
Right?
okay, am I in one piece? Check. Is the bike in one piece?
Yeah, because normally I'm like, is my bike okay?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, am I okay? But no, that time I was like, okay, this is serious. You need to make sure you're okay first. So
Did you think
the
about abandoning ship at this point?
no, no,
Okay.
no, no, no. I kind of popped up, and I think the driver was more shocked. He was mortified, poor guy. He was absolutely mortified. So I think because he was so mortified, I was so focused on reassuring him that I was a-okay, that the thought of quitting at that moment in time didn't really enter my head because I was like, I'm okay. Look at me, I'm fine,
Hmm.
you know? And so he then took me to the next town, and I jumped off the truck, got into my accommodation, stripped off, looked at myself, and I went, "Oh, these are going to be some nasty bruises." I had a massive contusion on my hip. There was already swelling and bruising coming out, and I was like, "This is going to be really bad in the morning." Um, but of course, the next day, I then realized I had to get back on that same road,
Hmm.
and that's when a little bit of the nerves kicked in. and I kind of went, "Oh, I don't really want to be facing that road again.
Yeah.
It's another 100 and something kilometers until there was brand new road. I knew the government had been building brand new roads, and I knew where it was starting. So I was like, "Do you know what, maybe if I can get a bus or something to that next town, then at least I'll be off the worst part." Because the video footage I have from the bus, there was a burning bus on the road, there was a burning truck on the road, there was potholes, you name it. Yeah, I saw it. I'm like, I'm so glad I jumped in a bus, because otherwise you'd get stuck on that bit of road. Yeah, anything could have happened, really. And safety does come first over a world record, in
Yeah,
my
hundred
opinion,
percent.
anyway.
A hundred
You
percent.
know.
Had you sort of like more loosely held on to that record at this point because everything was
Yeah,
you
so
were in a
I,
whole different circumstance?
of course, I immediately contacted the WUCA, so the World Ultra Cycling
Hmm.
Association, and I spoke with them, and they were like, "Look, the rules are you have to go back."
Right.
And I'm like, well, I can't. It's not safe. It's
Yeah.
really not safe. And they're like, okay, you can make those kilometers up somewhere down the line, but you have to make those kilometers up.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it's about 250 kilometers I need to make up. Okay, I can do that when I get to the UAE and it's safer, and I can cycle on better roads. I'll make it up. So that was the plan that I had. And of course, yeah. By the way, I got to the Zambian Tanzanian border, and Tanzania is crazier than Zambia. So I don't know how I survived the little bit of Tanzania after the border, because that was just as crazy. That road is just because
Mm.
that truck road continues, right? I just kind of went, you know what? Just put your head down, focus, and just grit your teeth, grin and bear it, and get through it. Um, so you asked me a question about smiling and how you get through the pain. So
Yeah, in my email to you, I was just like,
yeah,
you have to hit some periods where you are just
yeah.
like, this is terrible. Like
Oh,
even in the best of
definitely.
days, you hit periods where
I
just,
mean, like I'd send messages to my coach like, have you seen this mountain that I've got to climb, because there was some gradients where I'm like 15, 12,
yeah,
15, and I'm like, yeah, and then he's like, okay, you've done your first one, you've done it, you can do it now, come on, and I'm like, I don't think I could do it. And in my head, I'm just like, it's okay, just keep smiling. it Things could, it could be worse. You could be doing, look at what you're doing, for starters. You're out here, you're cycling, you're doing the best thing in the world. Like, come on, and so yes, in that moment there's pain, there's a sense of, I'm out here all by myself, what have I done? And then if you just smile, and then somebody comes past you and you're smiling, and then they smile and they might honk their horn and they might cheer out the window, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes me feel better in that moment in time. And I got the smiling from an old dragon boat coach,
oh,
and he's like, Paula, you're always this and you're always that. Because don't wake me up at 5 in the morning. I don't talk. I'll wake up at 5 in the morning. Just don't speak to me until I've had 10 coffees or something. Honestly, I'm like the grouchiest person, and I don't mean to be grouchy towards you. It's just one of those things. And so he's like, just smile. I'm like, okay. He's like, smile through the pain. I'm like, okay. And that's how I learned to smile through the pain, because if you smile, it just sends off a different vibration.
it does
Um,
help.
it really does. It
I have
really,
many
really does.
racing pictures of me smiling, and
Yeah.
it really it actually really does help.
And it's not reflecting what's going on in your head at all, because what's going on in your head is, I'm hurting, this hurts, everything hurts, my legs are on fire, my arms are on fire, and I just want this finished. but you're smiling, and so it's just giving you a better vibration, and
Yep.
that's what pulls you through.
Did you listen to anything at all, or were you just in your own thoughts?
Oh, so I had my headset on. And I thought I would listen to stuff, but to be honest, I was quite enjoying the nature. So I had the
Mm.
headset on just for directions. But
Yep.
Africa was easy. Africa was on this road, straight on this road to the next, to the border. So once you were
Wow.
on that road, you were going. Of course, it got a little bit more difficult navigating Europe because it's not straight roads
Yeah.
anymore. But no, I didn't really listen to anything other than directions.
Did you see any wildlife in Africa?
Yeah, I didn't see as much as I wanted. Well, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, right? Like, watch what you wish for.
Exactly. So I saw elephants
Mm.
in Botswana. And there was, so that stop, that the emergency stop I was talking about, that was an elephant camp. So they built the camp specifically next to a watering hole where elephants come. So I got to see some elephants that night. They came up for water,
Oh, wow.
and they were pretty close. I got some great footage of the elephants then. And then as I left camp the next day, they were on the road. Well, not on the road, but next to the road. And elephants are funny. They genuinely think they can hide behind trees. You're like, dude, and these little guys doing this, like, no, I see you. You're pretty big. So I saw elephants, and then when I got to the next stop, just before the Zambian border, Zambia, Tanzania, no, Botswana, Zambia, border, there I saw some giraffes and some
Oh,
elands
wow.
and stuff like that. That was very cool.
Oh, that's very
Um,
cool.
yeah, and oh, and then also in Kenya, so I had um, just after I crossed the Kenyan border, I managed to stop at the most loveliest little spot. I forget the name of it now. And my mom treated me to an extra night there. She was like, "You
Oh,
sound exhausted. I'll treat you to an extra night." So I stayed there a couple of nights, and they had a little sanctuary. So there was a giraffe that they rescued and brought up from little. So I got to pet him.
oh, that's so
I got to
cool.
feed him and pet him, and he was the cutest thing ever.
That is amazing. That
Very
is
cool.
really cool.
Yeah, but oh, and then in Finland and Norway, I got to see reindeer.
Wow.
I
Well,
know.
so, you had mentioned the problems in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
What, before we leave, Africa, did you get through Ethiopia?
No. No, I didn't. I got to the border, and so there was all this communication coming in about all the conflict and stuff like that, and I need to be careful. And my mum has friends in Africa. And so her friend was like, "Oh, I'm really concerned." She was in Kenya. My mom's friend lives in Kenya. She's like, "I'm really concerned. She's all by herself, this, that, and the other." So she also reached out to her cycling community. And one lad chirped up and said, "Well, I'll follow her with my car just to keep her safe.
Yeah.
No support, no nothing, just, security measures, really." And he was gonna follow me for the last stretch in Kenya to the border. And then I said to Andy, I'm like, "Hey, dude, any chance that you could follow me into Ethiopia? I'll pay you, obviously, cover all the costs. Could you follow me to Ethiopia to the airport, Addis Ababa? And then I'll fly out from Addis Ababa, as always planned, into the UAE." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, cool, cool." So I have the uncanny knack of getting into every major place where major things need to be done on a weekend where everything is closed and you can't get anything. So apparently, customs are closed on a Sunday in
Oh,
Ethiopia. So they were like, well, you can't come in because customs is closed. And I'm like, okay. So that was already weird. So they sent a customs officer
mm.
to come and talk to us. Um, and he was like, well, there's this cost and that cost, and there's going to be a
They're
thousand
just trying to
pounds
get a bunch of
here,
money from you. Yeah.
right? There was £1,000 here and £1,000 there, and it was like I'm tallying this up in my head. Not that I had even had £1,000, but tallying this up in my head, and I'm like, they want about £5,000 from us. And not only that, this guy turned around to Andy, who's Kenyan, okay, and he said, oh, we don't even really like you because you're not from the border of Kenya, Ethiopia, you're from the middle of Kenya. And I'm like, hang on a minute. If you don't like him and he's a fellow countryman, what are you going to do, for me? And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just not. I am not prepared to risk his life
Right.
as well as mine. If it was just mine, I might have taken
Mm.
a chance,
I'd prefer you
maybe
not. So what did
not.
you do?
So we hightailed it back to Nairobi, and I flew out from Nairobi then into the UAE. And of course, at that point, I messaged my coach and I went, oh, well, that's the world record out the window now,
Mm.
because there's no way to recover from that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you have to be realistic. But the ride was never really about the world record. It was about achieving something bigger than that.
Yep.
So in my head, I was like, well, I've started, so I'm finishing regardless. And yeah, I pressed on from the UAE.
So then from the UAE, where do you go from there?
So the UAE, I went Saudi.
Okay.
Um, and from Saudi, you can't enter directly into Iraq, so you have to do a little deviation through
Hmm.
Kuwait.
Yep.
So you go Kuwait, Iraq, Turkey. Um, Now, because it had taken me so long to get through Africa, I hit the UAE later than I anticipated, and they had a really early summer. So it
Oh,
was already, yeah, the heat was already climbing. So I was getting through Saudi, and I'm like, oh, I can't. The heat is too much. You can't cycle through the day. By the time I get to Iraq, you can't cycle through the day. You can't cycle through the night because it's too dangerous at night to be cycling.
yeah.
And I didn't really have another month in the bag to get myself through Iraq, to be fair. So I was like, okay, the world record is out the window. I'm going to take a flight. So I hopped over Iraq and I hit Turkey. And then from Turkey, I went into Bulgaria, um, Serbia, Austria, no, Hungary, Austria, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
Wow. Woo. That's, so you thought that this part might be easier than Africa, was
Yeah.
it?
Um, it was in terms of the roads. The roads got
Mm.
marginally better. Um, well, actually, a lot better to be fair. Um, have you used Komoot?
I have not used Komoot.
Don't.
Good thing they're not a sponsor.
So, I don't know, man. Komoot did not like me or something. There was like, let's go the scenic route. And in Bulgaria, oh my, no, yeah, Bulgaria no, Bulgaria, a friend joined me and he cycled with me all through Bulgaria. That was
Oh,
really
nice.
cool. So he was like, yeah, let's go, kept me company, which was really nice.
Mm,
It was nice just to have somebody to chat with.
totally.
And then just so he left me just before the Serbian border, which was fine. And I was like, oh, I'm only 15 kilometers away from Serbia. But Kamut was like, no, 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 no. Today we go up this mountain.
Oh boy.
And we're gonna have a look at the top of the mountain. And it wasn't on a road at all. I don't even know why I was continuing to believe in the route that it put me on. I have a message and a photo that I get sent to my coach. I'm like, what is this? It wasn't even a gravel road. It was just complete this. It was like a dirt track, gravel road, come, I don't know, mountain pass. It was nuts. And I'm like, I was walking.
Oh boy.
That's how bad it was. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, I've got to get back down. So I went because, you're not allowed to go on the motorways, right? You have to. So I get all the way back down only to be spat out on the same road that I took to go off on the first place. It's like, and the motorway was just there. I could see the motorway,
Oh
and I'm
wow.
like, I just want to get on the motorway, but I can't climb up this side embankment. I couldn't get up there, so they ended up going and taking like a cobble road all the way down. This guy stops me because he must have seen me like cycling around this place like a lunatic trying to find my way. And he goes, "Where are you trying to go?" I'm like, "I'm trying to get to the border." He goes, "Okay, go down this cobble road, and then you get on the motorway, and you have to stay on the motorway." I'm like, I should have done that from the beginning.
It's an
Yeah.
adventure, I mean,
Yeah, it was it was definitely an adventure. And then So then in Serbia, kind of stuck to the main roads, and then again, I was going to Warm Showers host. Lovely application, beautiful people, love Warm Showers. Shout out to Warm Showers. So going to a new friend now in Serbia, and I'm like, I messaged him, dude, I'm so close, I'm here. He's like, okay, I'll see you soon. And then Kamut goes, oh no, you're not.
oh no.
And so again, I end up going up the side of a mountain on back roads that I should never have been on in the first place. And I ended up taking a detour of an extra 30 kilometers or something like that up
Oh
a
boy.
road that I should never have been up. And Kamuta's like, no, you're on the right road. And what happens? The heavens open and I get drenched
Mm.
and I have to pull over and I'm stood under a tree and I'm like, this is unbelievable, I can't. And I've got my friend on the phone. He's like, are there any people around? I'm like, I can't see any houses. He goes, come on, there's got to be somebody that, Serbian people are amazing. Just knock on their door. They'll invite you in. Just get out of the rain. I'm like, okay. So then I found this house, and these people couldn't speak English. And took one look at me, and they were like, come in, sat me down, gave me coffee. So I had a nice cup of coffee. I phoned my friend, so he's translating to them
Wow.
with me, and then eventually the rain stopped, and they're like, okay, bye. And I
That's
still
amazing.
had, yeah, but I still had like 7 kilometers left of this really bad road to navigate. And then it was downhill and into the town. And I got into town just as the sun was setting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was crazy. And then of course, yeah, European weather followed me.
No, you are in the rain a
Oh
lot,
yeah.
probably.
Yeah,
How did
yeah.
like that gets demoralizing? Were
That
you
was
were you able to smile like through the
I don't think so. I think a lot of the times I was like, you know, this is not fun. I hate the
yeah,
rain.
yeah.
Um, so I grew up in South Africa, right? So my parents moved there when I was 8. Grew up in South Africa. Didn't really see the rain a lot. And I remember when it rained and I had to walk home in the rain, I'd start crying. I don't know why, because I'm like, I hate the rain. And I just start crying, and I'm like, don't cry, just don't cry. It's raining, just don't cry. You're not 8 years old anymore.
Yeah, but you've got to be a little depleted at this point and
Oh,
emotionally a
so
little raw. Like I
yeah.
understand if you would if you
Oh,
would cry. It
yeah,
would be
right.
reasonable.
I completely like. I think I had a couple of cries, but none. Like none. I was like, you're a big girl. Just don't cry in the rain.
Well, speaking of crying and meltdowns, you did tell me during a previous conversation that really the only true big meltdown you had was when you were really close to the finish, like 700K from the finish in Norway.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
happened? What happened there?
Um, so, there was a lot of financial stress happening. So I had, I lost my sponsors. So, the money that was coming in was from my GoFundMe. And I, I'm either really bad at uh, campaigning or, bad with social media. So, it just wasn't an abundance of money coming in, and I'm self-employed, so yeah, like uh, the money was just tight, let's put it that way. um so there was a lot of stress, and I'd been, my parents were helping me out, and there was a lot of stress on them as well, because yeah, bless their hearts, they did great. And I'd had a conversation with my mom and dad in the morning, um, that morning of the meltdown, and that we were talking about everything, and I'm like, I can't finish it. I just can't. I'm emotionally, physically, mentally spent,
Mm-hmm.
and all the stress of the finance kind of dumped on me in
Mm.
one go. Um, and I was just like, I can't do this. I genuinely can't do this. Um, and I sat crying, and I was heartbroken. I mean, like, really, everything just released in tears in one go. And I was crying on the end of my bed, and I hadn't told my parents I was quitting. They left the call just going, "It's okay, don't worry, you'll be fine." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not fine. I'm just not fine." And my coach had an accident, so he got hit off his mountain bike when I was going through. No, I'd hit Europe at that point. So he was in rehab. He was in physio, and he was doing great. By the way, he got hit off his bike. He had two small hip fractures that he needed, not fixing but healing. But he rest assured me that he was fine. So anyway, I messaged him, I WhatsApped him. I'm like, I quit. Um, I'm gonna get on a train. I'm gonna get on a flight, and then I'm coming home. I quit. And he messaged me back going, I'll call you when I'm done with the physio. And I'm like, no need, coach, no need. My mind's made up. I quit. 2 seconds later, he he stops all his training, and he phones me, and he's like, what the F are you doing? I'm like, I quit. I quit. And I'm bawling at this point. The tears, I'm bawling. And he's like, okay, take a breath, breathe. What is going on? And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't finish. And he goes, you got hit by a truck in Zambia. If you had quit then, I wouldn't have blamed you. But you are so close to the finish line. You can taste it. This is how close you are. Come on, what are you doing? And I went, I don't know. And he goes, do you want to be the girl that almost made it? Do you want to be known as the girl that almost made it? And I went, yeah, probably not. So he kind of talked me down. He goes, look, take the day,
Mm-hmm.
walk around, get some fresh air, you know, just breathe, see how you feel, and then we go again in the morning. And if you want to quit in the morning, fine. But at least you've taken the time to calm down, because right now your emotions are on high.
Yep.
Everything is up there, you know. You're on 120% here. Um, so I took the day, calmed down, got some really well good sleep, needed sleep. And then yeah, headed out the next day to my next destination. And then the next day my period started. And I hadn't had a period in oh, ages. I can't remember the last time I'd had a period at that point. And then it was like, I'm going to be a little bit graphic, really sorry, but I messaged my mom. I said it looked like somebody was massacred in the bed.
We haven't mentioned your age, but you're 49, and that does kind of sound
Yeah.
like a perimenopause moment.
Oh,
Honestly.
definitely. 100%. 100%. But of course, like I was so focused on training at that point, like thinking about my hormones, thinking about perimenopause, thinking about navigating all of that, just was like, yeah, that's right at the back of the bus at this moment. You know, I hadn't really thought about symptoms or
Yeah.
anything, you know, and I was like, whatever. I knew it was happening. I was just like, I didn't feel affected by anything until that moment. And I think it was just this huge buildup. And of course, the finish line was so close that my body must have just went, oh, look, you can take this now. And
Right.
dumped everything on me in that one moment. And I must have just had this hit of hormones and hit of this and da da da. And then, of course, that moment of relaxation, my body went, oh, by the way, now you can have your period.
But you did finish.
I
You
did.
like you did finish, and I'd like to talk about the finish. You know, you said you saw reindeer. You got to Norway. Yeah,
Yeah.
in in my mind, I would think it would be an incredibly emotional point to get to the end of a journey like that. And I also know that sometimes it's oddly devoid of emotion. Like, I wonder what
Yeah.
that was like for you when you finally got to the monument.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like that last day, I'm cycling and I'm like, you know, I'm like, this is the last day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it is. It's like I don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling here. You know, I'm excited. I'm like I'm at the finish line. And of course I knew nobody was going to be there to greet me at the finish line because I did say to everybody, it's a nightmare to get there. It's going to be mega expensive. Please don't come to the finish line because, you know, I just
Did you
don't
regret
want.
that?
No, not
Okay.
really. No, I mean, well, yeah, okay, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Like, I
Yeah,
wish somebody
okay,
was here.
yeah, maybe a little bit. Take it back, maybe just a little bit, you know, because then of course I couldn't. There was no kind of jubilation at the end where you're like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
know, and so you kind of internalized a lot of the response of excitement, you know, because I thought I was going to be the only one there, and there was so many people around, and I'm like, I'm not going to stand on the top of the steps screaming and yelling and going crazy by myself, and they're going to look at me like, well, what, you know, this mad woman. But then there was people around, and they were kind of like, you know, cyclists as well. So there was all this joy and laughter and everything happening, and everybody was like really uh, um, excited about the finish line for themselves.
Mm.
And then a couple of motorcyclists, they came up and they were like, what did you do? Because they heard me talking on Instagram, I think, you know, and they were like, you cycled from where to where? And I was like, oh, I did this thing. And they were like, oh my God. And then the next thing I know, there's all these people standing around me and they're like, congratulations, this is amazing, giving me hugs, taking photos, you know, like go stand by the monument, hold your bike up. So I
Oh,
got all
nice.
those photos, which was really cool. So that was kind of like, okay, my friends weren't there, but I lived the excitement with them, you know, through these people.
That's
So
cool.
that was fun. And then, of course, it's then now I got to get back to the airport. How am I going to do
Yeah. Oh
that?
my
So,
God. Then, yeah,
you
real life
know,
crashes in.
So you kind of have to go from one split second, I'm excited, to, okay, now I got to get back down to the town because the bus doesn't take you there anymore. So I
Yeah.
can't jump on a bus back to town. I actually have to cycle back. So you got to cycle back to town. Then you got to get a bike box. Then you got to do this. Then you got
The
to do that.
glamorous life of an adventure. Yeah.
Right? So it was kind of like the last, it was like a finished. Oh, you haven't finished because now you got 72 hours of chaos
Yeah.
getting yourself to Oslo to get on a plane to get back to Heathrow. Gatwick,
Right.
even. Yeah.
So you've had some time now to process all this. I'm curious, what did the ride give you, Paula?
Yo, wait. That's a big question because I got so much, you know. What did it give me? It gave me strength that I never really have explored before. I've always been told I'm a strong person. I guess because people have heard about where I've come from, you know, the path, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, a lot of people are like, how did you make it? Um, and I kind of proved to myself that, yeah, you know, I'm strong, I'm resilient, that you can actually survive anything as long as you're wanting to, you
Hmm.
know, like don't give up. If you give up, I sorry, just going to deviate a little bit here. So one thing that I've struggled with my whole life is the fear of failure.
Hmm.
Um, and to the point where if I think I'm going to fail, I don't even start.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's because, you know, I always had this fear of what everybody else thought about me,
Hmm.
you know? And and what are they going to think if they see me fail? You know, what are the stories? What are they going to say? It doesn't matter what they say, you know? And through Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well, I've learned you don't fail, you learn, you know?
Nice.
And and
Hmm.
and and so it's not a failure. It's only failure when you quit. So if you quit, that's when you fail. But if you fail, you stand up and you try again, and you learned along the way, then you're moving forward. You're progressing forward in life. And so getting up every day, getting back on that bike, cycling, you know, doing everything, facing everything alone. I mean, so many people message me, are you mad? What are you doing? You're a woman. You're all by yourself. You're in Africa. Da, da, da. This one guy who I didn't even know had an argument with his wife
I'm sure
about
that's
me.
true. I'm sure
Yeah,
that's
because
true.
it is. I met them at that place in Botswana where I did the quick little deviation to because I my brain was going over time, and they met me in this camp. And the next morning they saw me, and she went, do you know he was yelling at me last night because of you? I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry. He goes, she's a woman. She's all by herself. She can't do this. And his wife goes, calm down. You're not her husband. You're not her brother, you're not her dad, you're not her husband. She's out here by herself. She has chosen to do this. She's obviously got it. She knows she's got this. So, you know, we will follow her on Instagram to make sure she's okay, but you can't get angry. And I'm like, and then of course at the end of all of it, I had people messaging me going, we never thought you were going to make it, but and we can tell you now because you finished. But we said to each other, she's never going to make it, you know? And it's like, yeah, see, you can never underestimate anyone. And so like in my head, I'm like, yeah, don't underestimate me, because I'm definitely going to prove you wrong. If you underestimate me, I will prove you wrong.
That is that is amazing. And I guess I love every moment of that. I guess to wrap this up, you've
Yeah.
already given a lot of advice to the listeners about mindset. But I mean, for somebody, because that I think that so many people, and I will put myself in that bucket, like the fear of failure can definitely get you to make you stop. The fear of failure
Yeah.
can definitely stop you before you try. 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, you know, what what is your take leaving message for women as we leave this end of the year and go into the new year, if they've always had that thing that in their mind that goal, but it never feels like it's the right time, or they're not ready, or they're afraid. Like, what are your parting words there?
Sure. Don't wait for the right time. There's never going to be a right time. You do need to plan. You
100%
do need
amen.
to, right? You do need to plan and you do need to prepare, but there's never going to be a right time. So if you have those goals in your head, you need to start, because whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you can. You just have to say to yourself, well, I can, and I'll learn along the way. Um, you've already thought of this big audacious goal that you've set for yourself. So somewhere internally, you've already said to yourself, I can do this. Otherwise,
Yeah.
that thought would never have come to you in the first place. So go for it. Don't give yourself the credit that you're due, because you can do it. And
Mic
don't be
drop right
afraid
there,
to ask
Paul.
for help.
Oh. Yeah,
Sorry.
ask for help along the way too. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been so cool meeting you.
Well, that's our show. We are going to take a much needed break here at Feisty headquarters, so you will have replays of some of your favorite episodes for the next 2 weeks. And then we got some great shows cooking up for you in the new year. We've got Bill Campbell coming back to talk about what he learned in his big menopause survey that we talked about earlier this year. We have Andrea Matsumura coming back to help us sleep. We have Kristen Arnold loading us up with all the carbohydrate advice we can use, and much, much more. So come on back in the new year, and until then, as always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause, and please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends, and please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.